Hello and welcome back to Jenna Gets Creative. I have my high school sketchbooks. We are going to look at a few specific things. I'm not doing a tour through all of these today. I'm hesitant to do one. Some of this stuff is embarrassingly bad compared to what I do now. Let's just never mind the fact that it was 20 years ago. If you really want to see that, I guess we can make it a channel goal for some sort of big milestone. I do have some specific things I'm going to show you. Not related to what we are going to draw today, but it is kind of on theme, I promise. There was some sort of project where we had to pick out a picture from a National Geographic magazine and then draw a scene around it. This Star Wars masterpiece that has a little bit of Spaceballs reference in there too, because we've actually labeled the radar. I think I originally had it Mr. Radar. This got 9 out of 10 because I didn't color enough. Can we just appreciate the horrible quality of this paper? You can see anything I erased underneath this because it made indents in the paper that then didn't allow me to color over it. We also have ridiculous things in here, like this wolf with no neck doing an 80s style glamour shot. No idea what. Getting on with today's topic. So when I was like 11, 12, I started writing little novellas. Today you would call them Star Wars fan fictions. I didn't know anything about what fan fictions were at the time. I thought I was just stealing ideas and coming up with my own story. This is a generic female of the species, the Giluans, from the planet Gilua. And this one page in my 8th grade sketchbook that remains is proof that I was actually doing this back then. I promise those lines you see through there are not like a naked person. That's just a very badly drawn bobcat from the back. I used to, at the very back, on the last page, have the entire cast of those stories I was writing drawn out as one big group, and my friend Allie, she thought it was hilarious that these were called Giluans and that they were aliens, so she kept on flipping to the back of my sketchbook and showing everybody and going, "Look, Jen's gluing aliens together." Jen, because I was just Jen in high school. That was proof that I was doing that, so there's no year on that. That was proof that I was doing that in 8th grade, which means I came up with those characters at least 7th grade, maybe even 6th grade. This is the sketchbook I was using 2 years later. So here is another one of those Giluans. The main character in this series was half Giluan, half human. These guys, they lived on the planet Gilua, and they were kind of an invasive species at some point. They took over the planet from these guys, the Tigrians, very creatively named. I know they have stripes on their bodies. But these guys ended up interbreeding to create the Gila-Tigrians. And I loved drawing and coloring these guys. And as you can see on what's left of my old pencils from back then, I actually, with a tiny little Sharpie pen, labeled what I was coloring, what layer I was coloring, with these pencils so I could go back and do it again. We're going to, 20 years later, draw a Gila-Tigrian alien, maybe 2, I'm not sure yet, in my more mature, in my early 30s, adult style. I'll pass it over now to voiceover Jenna to introduce the channel more properly, and then tell you all about this Star Wars ripoff I used to write as a preteen and young teenager. Voiceover Jenna here now. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jenna. I am a freelance editor and illustrator. I run a book review blog, and twice a week I like to put out YouTube content as well. Mostly this channel is art content, either with relevant commentary like when I'm doing supply reviews and challenges, or if I'm just doing any old random art piece, I might take the time to talk about things that are going on in the world. Sometimes I collaborate with other artists, sometimes I attempt digital art, and at least twice a month I like to make the Tuesday video topic more bookish. If any of that sounds good to you, I'd really appreciate if you could hit the subscribe button before you leave, and if everyone watching could help me appease the algorithm overlord by liking and commenting, that'd be awesome too. So, back in grade 6 or 7, age 11, 12-ish, I had devoured every Star Wars film that was out, I had read a bunch of Star Wars books, and I was absolutely obsessed with the middle grade Star Wars series Jedi Apprentice, written by Jude Watson, which follows Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan was a teenaged Padawan. I wanted to write something equally epic, and without knowing what fanfiction was, I quickly fell into fanfiction and started writing stories of similar length to those Jedi Apprentice novels about my own cast of Jedi Knights and Padawans. My main character, my Obi-Wan stand-in, was a boy named Keeley, and he was half Galooan, half human, but he didn't know it at the beginning of book 1. I was very into 80s and 90s soap opera type dramatic storylines. We can thank my childhood best friend's Nan for that. And Keeley actually ends up forcing the hand of the adults who know what he is by catching a disease humans aren't supposed to be vulnerable to. Why didn't he know what he was? Well, his academy was on Venus, and in this alternate reality version of our galaxy, humans only think Venus is a toxic, overheated, gassy atmosphered rock because that's what the residents are projecting. It's actually perfectly habitable. Humans live once on Earth, and then they're reincarnated on Venus, and sometimes force abilities awaken in the population reborn on Venus, which is why an academy was set up there. So Keeley thinks he's a Venus native, he thinks he's human, he's actually been dropped off there for his own protection because of the hostilities on the planet Galua and the fact that his father is the crown prince. Keeley's master was a human, and I ended up renaming him after I realized where the name Seiko came from, but I don't remember what his new name was. I also don't remember now why I was apparently fine with so blatantly ripping off Star Wars, but I got hung up on finding out I'd named one of my characters after a Japanese watch brand. The first story in that series I was writing started out by taking massive inspiration from the first Jedi Apprentice book, which is actually the only book in that series not written by Jude Watson. We meet Keeley at the academy, preparing for some sort of Jedi sports day type thing, because the Knights of the Quadrant, who are looking for new Padawans, are coming, and this is Keeley's last year before the academy says, "Too bad, you're too old now, go find something else to do with your life." He ends up impressing Seiko, but almost screwing it up for himself by seeking Seiko out and begging to become his Padawan before Seiko has announced any sort of decision. Anyway, it works out. They go off on their first mission. Keeley gets sick. Somebody back at the academy informs Seiko on Keeley's nature, and they end up going to Galua to seek help. That's where they find Keeley's father and aunt, who are leading a resistance against the Gilly-Tigrians, who are trying to purge the remaining pure-lined Galuan and Tigrian families from the planet's ruling class. Gilly-Tigrians, if you don't recall from my rambly introduction, are what I'm drawing right now. They're the hybrid species that has become dominant on the planet of Galua, which was originally the planet of Tigria, but the Galuans were looking for a new planet and took over. Unfortunately, all of these stories are lost to time now. Unlike some of my other stories from that time that I still have in old notebooks, these ones I wrote exclusively on the computer, and the family computer encountered many viruses and malware that required reformatting back then. This was the age of Napster, not even LimeWire. Napster hadn't been sued yet. Nobody knew Sean Parker's name yet. He hadn't influenced Mark Zuckerberg yet. MySpace didn't even exist yet. YouTube didn't exist. My friends and I were chatting online using ICQ and AOL Instant Messenger, maybe MSN Messenger. Hotmail was the new thing to have. If you already had an email address, it was through your internet service provider and you had to be on your home computer to check it. Everybody was posting on LiveJournal, and if your computer had the graphics power to handle it, you might be chatting with animated Lego Man looking avatars on Habbo Hotel. Wow, that was quite the tangent. Point being, anything I wrote digitally before 2006 is gone. 2006 is when I got my first laptop, and nobody else touched it, and I was finally able to be in control of what went onto the same system that was holding all of my files, and I handle all of my own data transfers from machine to machine after that. It requires a bit of digging on old external hard drives, but I can get you anything I ever created since then, but not before. There's a small bit of overlap of horse gaming stuff saved from before then, because I got my first paid web hosting package in 2004, but what teenager was backing up their unrelated documents on something like that, right? And yes, I was the one kid in computer class in the new age of basic web design being taught in high school who asked the teacher if it was fine to use my own domain and not make yet another free GeoCities page for the class assignments. The look of, oh crap, this kid probably knows more than I do. That was just priceless. So, did you ever write fanfiction? Are you brave enough to share? Let's talk fanfiction or Wild West internet stories in the comments down below. If you're looking for more to watch, I've got some suggestions up on the left side of the screen now. Don't forget to like, comment, maybe even subscribe, and if you like living life creatively, whatever that means to you, I'd love to have you along for the ride. Bye guys!